This is kind of two or three ways, this conversation now, because it is about what's going on in Gaza, but it's also primarily in New Zealand about Gaza idle, when we're going to find out after the ad break, should Gaza be recognised or not? And there's a couple of things. We're going to watch both news, not the whole lot of them, but both news channels tonight to have a look at what's going on. Won't we recognise Gaza today? If it has to go through cabinet and be cabinet approved, like majority approved, then this government's in trouble, because when we play you what Seymour says about it, there ain't no way, if it has to be approved by a majority, that they are going to let it through. So here's the story from One News tonight.
France has joined a wave of nations recognising a Palestinian state, further isolating and angering Israel. At a special UN summit, President Emmanuel Macron warning time's running out to save the two-state pathway to peace. Watching on, our Foreign Minister, who's yet to make New Zealand's decision on the issue public. US correspondent Logan Church reports.
As world leaders converge on the United Nations, the stakes have rarely been higher. Our Foreign Minister among the mix, meeting first with his Ukrainian counterpart.
It's a big beef of a man, isn't he, from Ukraine? Look at the size of him. Sheesh. No wonder they're winning that war. Well, somewhat.
You contributed in our resilience and in our fight against aggression, and I invite you to visit Ukraine.
Our commitment to him was an unwavering support for that effort.
Do we think Winston's going there, though? I'm thinking not. I'm thinking he'll stay right where he is.
To defeat their invasion, and we'll go on doing that.
The main show, though, a conference on saving the very idea of a two-state solution for peace in the Middle East. France's president co-hosting it with Israel's virtual neighbour, Saudi Arabia.
The time for peace has come because we are moments away from being unable to grasp it.
The Palestinian Authority president had to beam in via video after the White House revoked his visa.
We commend the positions of those countries who have recognised the state of Palestine. We call on those who haven't done so far to follow suit.
The US and Israel boycotting the meeting.
Can I just say, it's a little bit of a side note here, but how about we upgrade the seats a little bit? Just quietly. I mean, this is the UN, for goodness sake. Peeling seats? Come on, guys.
Hamas is praising this conference. If a terrorist organization is supporting what's happening here, it's shameful.
Winston Peters is expected.
Sorry, another side note. That guy would do a really good Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just think he's close to it, and if he just gave it another 10%, it would be a really good. You can hear it.
If a terrorist organization is supporting what's happening here, it's shameful.
Winston Peters is expected to announce New Zealand's position on Palestinian statehood during his speech later this week. Timing, though, that some are questioning, given so many of our close allies have made their stance clear ahead of arriving at the UN.
This should never have taken the New Zealand government this long. It shouldn't be down to the wire like this.
Look, we've been waiting 80 long years for an answer here. In a few days, finding out all the facts.
And find out next, right after this ad break.
It will not be wasted.
With the eyes of the world on the plight of Palestinians, some wonder why our Prime Minister isn't here.
I'm not really sure I can work out what would be more important.
No need for me to be there this year. Quite normal that foreign...
Funny it's called the Leaders Conference, eh? And Macron's there and Trump's there. But no, I don't need to be there. When he can do it. It is actually... it's probably fair, Jared, I'm assuming you're going to agree with this. He was seen kind of as the Koru Lounge Prime Minister for the first 12 months. He used to love a Koru Lounge, but maybe he's getting a bit sick of it, because this would have been like the ultimate Koru Lounge going across to the UN. But no, people are asking in the chat, why not? There's not really an answer. He's just saying because. That's really the only answer that there is. He doesn't give anything definitive, actually.
One of the things... Sorry.
You go.
Oh, well, one of the things that Winston said was that there are some people who are leaders that are not here. And the thing was, though, that those leaders generally had a good reason not to be there, whereas Christopher Luxon didn't have a good reason. Here he is doing an announcement for a highway in Levin that he didn't have to attend, compared to the biggest issue in the world right now, and the fact that everything is urgent around it. Like you heard Macron talking about, the time is now or we may lose this opportunity for peace.
Yeah.
So days do matter, weeks and days matter. And I think his whole speech to the summit there emphasized that the time is now. And he was very, very strong on the urgency to act now. And we also saw Winston just leave that summit. He was going to be there for the whole 3 hours, but he left after 2 hours and went and had a press conference instead. So I'm personally underwhelmed very much by our lack of urgency and the way in which we've signalled that basically our Prime Minister's keeping a big distance here and just waiting. We're holding out and sitting on our hands. We're not even being upfront, with what we need to know, what the facts are that we still need to find out.
Do you get a sense at all that this is a bit of a big call, and I might be drawing a long bow, but what with him not wanting to engage in this particular international event, it is actually signalling that New Zealand is not that much of a political player around the world. Like, we will just be a little bit isolationist. He wants to be more New Zealand only. I can't imagine, for example, if this was a left wing or a left leaning government, that the leaders wouldn't want to be there talking about what should we do about Gaza. Whichever one of those leaders from the left, I can't imagine them not wanting to be there because it's a worldwide issue. I just wonder if we're seen as more isolationist than we usually are. Like, if you think about, Springbok, all these sorts of things that we've done, that at the moment, the vibe that this government's giving off is, well, we'll take care of ourselves and the rest of you can come second. Maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I'm just sort of thinking that the entire way in which Luxon is staying out of this has now possibly got something to do with the way he accidentally said that Netanyahu had lost the plot, and then he got burned. And now today we're seeing kind of retribution being directed towards Australia for taking a position. So I think he's keeping his head down, to be honest. And I'm also thinking that, he's basically sort of handing this over to Winston to take any of the flack as an intermediary to try and restore whatever damage has already been done there. And I think that this relationship with the United States has clouded the entire issue, where the issue should be focused on the people of Palestine, what's going on with potential annexation of the West Bank, what's going on in Gaza with a genocide. And it's just brutal, really, being a New Zealander and watching a government let us all down like this.
I wonder, I'm going to go back. I'm just trying to figure out that ping where it's coming from as well. I now think that makes it what you've just said, right? Makes me think, is it possibly more likely that that we will announce recognition of Gaza? In other words, it doesn't have to come from his mouth, or does it mean it's less likely because he doesn't? If Winston says no, then it's also taking the heat off him. It's like Winston is we call Tama Pōtaka bitumen sometimes because they constantly throw him under the bus. I wonder if this is a bit of a hospital pass to Winston either way. Luxon wants to keep distance. And remember, you always have to, when you think about Luxon, you always have to put that evangelical Christian background on as well, and what the evangelical Christians think of when it comes to recognising Gaza. And I'm not saying Luxon wouldn't, because he is, but many of his supporters will be very pissy, as he keeps saying, if or when we do. So I don't know.
Personally, I think that there's this terrible disconnection at the moment with New Zealand and the big initiative that's going on. We heard the Secretary General for the United Nations make a speech today where he talked about the 1967 borders being honoured in the two-state solution. And there'd been quite a bit of skepticism about whether or not this was all just talk, and really just a kind of a symbolic effort. But when you listen to him actually refer to those borders and the way in which the settlements in the West Bank have to be stopped and those people need to move, and that we need to send in I think it was Macron was saying we need to send a force into Gaza to protect the people there. And get those medical supplies in there and give the people what they need to rebuild, get a lot of money in there and start rebuilding Gaza. That was the solution. That was the solution the world wants, and it all made a lot of sense. But you see this government of ours not being part of it, sort of sitting back, playing politics, waiting to understand a political reaction rather than any real information gathering. So Trump's talking tomorrow, isn't he? And when he talks, Winston actually has some kind of late night evening cocktail event with Trump and company, and he's going to. So what he's waiting for is how to do the smoochy sort of testing of the waters about, like, what if we did this? Because there will always be some kind of if it's not if, it's when. But it's just, the trouble is it's probably not going to be now for New Zealand, when everybody else is going now and join this big effort towards peace. And I think that's going to really crush a lot of New Zealanders and make us feel quite a lot of resentment towards this government.
So you don't think that they're going to recognise? That's where you're leaning?
Yeah, I don't think, I think it'll be a conditional position that talks about the future rather than now. There's basically this 4 options. You basically come on board like all the other 147 nations. You do what the bigger Western countries are doing, where you say, well, you need to have no Hamas in there, or you go into some sort of more vague and watered down options. And I think we're heading towards those more vague, watered down options. And that's where Seymour had been bold enough to actually speak out about things like borders not being there yet, and kind of placing it back onto Palestine to take actions that are almost impossible for them.
Well, let's do that. Let's get to this. Has only got about 20 seconds to go or something. Then we'll go to the other clip from 3 News, which has got it's interesting when you watch the different news is how they cover it. 3 News really did cover more what's happening in New Zealand with the thoughts, and then TVNZ was more what's happening in New York. So let's just get to the end of this, and then we'll go check out what Mr. Seymour had to say
at Leaders Week.
Does it not send a bad message?
No, I don't believe so at all.
But at the UN, focus now turns to the one man who can make a real difference here.
God, Trump will be loving it, that being said about him. The one man who will make a difference here. All right, so this is 3 News. I'm not going to go through the whole story, but just for the last few days, I've been pondering, how does this go through Cabinet? Does it need them to all agree? Can someone like Winston Peters agree to disagree on something today to do with immigration, which we're not featuring tonight? But if Seymour agrees to disagree, can they still therefore announce it as they're recognising Gaza, or do they all need to agree? Because if they do have to all agree, then Mr. Luxon has a lot of trouble with Mr. Seymour, if you listen to what he says.
We'll make a final cabinet decision at the end of this week, and then it will be announced publicly by Winston Peters in New York.
This follows a public clash inside the coalition after ACT leader David Seymour made this comment last week.
We're not going to recognise a state that's currently weaponising hostages, holding people for years on end. And
we already recognise Israel. I don't know why he's saying this.
Absolutely inhumane conditions. I mean, who would recognise that?
That earned him a swift swipe back from Peters, who said the government's position is articulated by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, going on to say that for the second time Seymour is talking out of his field. The Prime Minister also called Seymour into his office.
I spoke to David, Winston speaking for us on Foreign Affairs, and he's the one that's leading our Cabinet through that position.
Seymour declined an interview about...
There you go. So you couldn't be much more unclear. Like, if you can't have more clarity than that, why would we vote for them for these reasons? So it'll be interesting. I'm intrigued to see what happens next. I do wonder if maybe this delay, because we're saying, what's the delay? I mean, Luxon said 10 times this week, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So if what he's saying is at some stage New Zealand will, why don't they just do it now? But maybe Seymour's a problem. I'm not sure, but Seymour is very clear on what he thinks, Jared.
Yeah, I think that there's a sort of a, it's not a matter of if, it's when, but not now.
Yeah.
and I think
that not now
is a problem. I do think that we saw today Winston agree to disagree, which you can do in MMP, and potentially, if we're all lucky, we might get an ACT party that disagrees and agrees to disagree on the Palestinian decision in cabinet, and we all just really been left, to find this out. I don't understand the amount of secrecy over a principled decision like this. I don't understand why we lack balls. Why we can't just be open and more transparent. And the other thing I'd say about Seymour is after the fact, he said he was talking about the ACT position and not the government position. So he clarified, but it was all a bit late. It was at the time he was talking out of turn. And I think we've got a situation where we've got a pretty loose coalition that's all over the show. And these minor parties are just running rings around Luxon.
Yeah, indeed. And also it's been very clear for the last few months that Seymour in particular is into electioneering mode. So he wants to differentiate himself from the other two. He wants to be speaking to an audience that, if wink, wink, nudge, nudge, if we get in again next time with, double the MPs and we've got the power and it hasn't been recognised yet, then it won't be getting recognised. I don't know if the evangelical Christian has a natural position voting for ACT or not. I don't know enough about what that belief. I think they've got a natural position voting for national, but if national, because what happens here, people will see as being Luxon led no matter what. National will get the ire of it if they acknowledge Gaza. There is going to be a voting bloc that are not going to then vote for Luxon, but they would probably vote for Seymour because he's saying the things that they want to hear at the moment.